Lead's omnipotent toxicity. Lead is a toxic metal. It can permanently damage the human's brain, heart, and kidneys. At high levels, lead poisoning can cause seizures, coma, and even death. Moreover, even the tiniest amounts of lead can harm children. The child's brain is especially sensitive to lead toxicity. Studies have shown that children with even low levels of lead in their blood have more difficulty learning and that they lose an average of 2 to 4 points in their IQ for every 10 microgram increase of their blood lead levels. It is now known that there is no safe level of lead concentration in the blood. Low levels of lead in the blood have also been linked to short attention span, attention deficit, hyperactivity, and aggressive behaviors. Researchers have shown that young men under age 18 jailed for juvenile delinquency have higher levels of lead in their bodies than other young men from the same neighborhood without a criminal record. Lead paint and the dust that forms when lead paint chips and erodes are one of the most common causes of lead poisoning. Luckily, because lead paint chips and peels as it ages, it often, but not always, makes its presence known. You have to check for peeling and chipping paint inside and outside your house. In the developed world there is a ban of residential uses of lead-based paints. Nonetheless, it is still allowed and legally manufactured in almost all the developing nations, and the use of lead-based paints for residential and commercial purposes is still permitted in 60% of all countries globally. Lead paint in houses deteriorates over time, and consequently it creates lead dust and chips that fall on the floor and collect in window wells and on windowsills, floor moldings, and other flat places. Young children, especially infants and children less than 6 years old, are at greatest health risk from lead paint and dust. Lead paint gets into the bodies of children in a variety of ways. Kids can ingest the lead-tainted dust after putting toys contaminated by lead dust in their mouths, or by putting their fingers in their mouths after crawling around the floor. Infants and toddlers put everything in their mouths as it is their way of exploring the world. When toddlers are tall enough to stand up and look out the windowsill might look like a teething ring. If there is lead paint or lead in the dust on the windowsill, then it is a ready source of lead poisoning. So, normal childhood behaviors can result in lead poisoning if there is lead in the paint in your house. Compounding this problem is the fact that lead paint chips taste sweet. Some children can actually develop a craving for lead paint chips, which is called pica. Kids with pica will seek, find, and eat tiny chips of lead paint that are around. Kids with pica like the taste of lead paint so much that they become quite persistent in finding tiny chips that might escape adult notice. Therefore, the best way to protect an infant and toddler from lead paint poisoning is to make sure that lead is not in your home at all, and ideally before you move in. It is always worth remembering that because a child's brain and nervous system are still developing, direct exposure to even the tiniest amounts of lead by any route is a serious risk for lead poisoning and its tragic health consequences. Moreover, if a pregnant woman experiences a severe case of lead poisoning, she may have a miscarriage, stillbirth, premature delivery, or premature rupture of her membranes. At lower levels of lead poisoning to a pregnant mother, the baby's developing brain and nervous system can be irreversibly damaged. Lead poisoning can happen easily when drinking water is contaminated with lead, as many communities worldwide have lead pipes delivering water from the municipal water treatment plants to homes. Over the years, the pipes become coated on the inside with a biofilm, a layer of organic material that acts as a protective coating to keep the lead from coming in direct contact with the water. In places where the municipal water is acidic, the acidity eats away at the biofilm, causing the lead to dissolve from the pipes into the water. Most lead in drinking water, though, comes from pipes and plumbing within schools, homes, and apartment buildings. In the early and mid-1900s, lead pipes were commonly used in household plumbing. Therefore, if you have an old house and the plumbing system has never been updated, you might still have lead pipes conducting water from the city water mains into your taps. If you have well water, you should have your water tested for lead content by a certified laboratory. There have been many instances of well water being contaminated by toxic chemicals from factories, petrol stations and hazardous waste sites, and because chemicals can travel long distances through aquifers, the source may be far away from the contaminated well. Having lead in your water does not necessarily mean you need to replace the plumbing in your home. In most cases, the easiest way to eliminate any lead in your drinking water or cooking water before using it for drinking or cooking is to run the cold water for 30 seconds or so to flush out the line carrying the water after it has sat in the pipes for hours at a time, such as after work or school and the first thing in the morning. Because water from a municipal water supplier is generally lead-free when it leaves the water treatment plant, running the water before using it lets you access lead-free water that hasn't been sitting in your household plumbing overnight or for hours at a time, which allows time for lead to leach from your household pipes or lead-based pipe solder. And always use cold water to drink, cook, and make baby formula, as hot water can leach more lead from the household plumbing. Likewise, if you are on a well, you should still run the water for 30 seconds, after it had been sitting for a while within the pipes that brings water to your house, to be safe. In recent decades, lead has been trickling to every corner of the globe via toys manufactured in China and other less regulated countries. Recalls or product warnings due to lead content have included, crayons made in China, China tea sets for doll houses, painted toys imported from Mexico and China, lead figurines used in adventure games for children and teens. Imported pottery from China and other less regulated countries has been known to contain lead. Additionally, when pottery's glazing is imperfect, lead from the paint under the glaze can come in contact with your food. The greatest danger with improperly glazed pottery is using it to store acidic liquids such as orange juice stored in a pottery pitcher. The acid in the orange juice can dissolve the lead, making it more readily and heavily consumed later. It is always prudent that you should pay particular attention to ceramic ware or pottery that is, handmade, with a crude appearance or irregular shape, antique, damaged or excessively worn, purchased from flea markets or street vendors, or if you are unable to determine whether the pottery is from a reliable manufacturer, brightly decorated in orange, red, or yellow glaze, as lead is often used with these color pigments to increase their intensity. Moreover, candles manufactured in poorly regulated countries include lead in their wicks. A leaded wick can produce lead fumes as it is burned, causing a serious hazard if the fumes are inhaled. Also, lead has been found in some imported candies, chili powder and spices from China, India and elsewhere. Lead gets into these products when the drying, storing, and grinding of the ingredients are done improperly. Lead has also been found in the wrappers of some candies. The ink of the plastic or paper wrappers may contain lead that leaches into the candy. It is important to note that a common cosmetic, which is usually used for eyeshadowing, called kohl from parts of Africa, the Middle East, Pakistan, and India also contains lead and should not be used. There have also been reports of lead in other cosmetics, such as lipstick, which is generally used to make its color shinier. In fact, as long as there is lead paint in our homes, there are lead pipes in our drinking water system, and there is lead in the soil, and most importantly lead coming from the industrial waste poured into our rivers and seas or dumped underground. The tragic effects of the lead poisoning silent pandemic will continue to be seen. Copyright Academy House, www.academy.house